Guard dog.
Guard dog.
Guarded.
Guarded.
The minister was quite guarded in his comments. He gave the proposal a guarded welcome.
Guardhouse.
Guardhouse.
Guardian angel.
Guardian angel.
Guardian.
Guardian.
His aunt is his legal guardian.
The U.S. sees itself as the guardian of democracy.
Guardianship.
Guardianship.
Guardrail.
Guardrail.
Guardroom.
Guardroom.
Guardsman.
Guardsman.
Guardsvan.
Guardsvan.
Guava.
Guava.
Gubbins.
Gubbins.
I want a nice simple camera without all that gubbins.
Gubernatorial.
Gubernatorial.
Gubernatorial elections.
Guerrilla.
Guerrilla.
American troops found themselves fighting a guerrilla war. American troops found themselves fighting a guerrilla war.
Left-wing guerrillas. Guerrilla gardening. Guerrilla gardening. Guerrilla gardeners came late in the night and turned the area outside the building into a vegetable patch. Guerrilla marketing. Guerrilla marketing.
Guess.
Guess.
I'd say he's around 50, but I'm only guessing.
If you guess correctly, you have another turn. You can guess what happened next. We can only guess at the cause of the crash. What star sign are you? No, let me guess. It's hard to guess his age because he dyes his hair.
I guessed that you must be related because you look so similar.
I guess from his expression that he already knew about the accident. Can you guess the identity of this week's special guest? A thriller that keeps audiences guessing.
His light's on, so I guess he's still up.
I'm tired, so I guess I'll stay home tonight. You're one lucky guy. I guess so. I don't really have any choice, do I? I guess not.
Guess what? Bradley's resigned.
You'll never guess who I saw today.
I'd say she's about 35, but that's only a guess.
What she's going to do with her life now is anybody's guess. What she's going to do with her life now is anybody's guess.
Guesstimate.
Guesstimate.
Could you give us a guesstimate of the numbers involved?
Guesswork.
Guesswork.
There's a lot of guesswork in these calculations.
Guest.
Guest.
A banquet for 250 distinguished guests.
You are here as my guests. Most of the wedding guests had left.
Among the invited guests were Jerry Brown and Elihu Harris.
The actress was guest of honor at the launch.
I'm nearly finished the guest list for the wedding.
We have guests staying right now. Use of the sauna is free to guests.
We have some great guests for you tonight.
Fontaine appeared as a guest on the show.
Do you mind if I look at your notes? Be my guest.
He was still asleep in the guest bedroom.
Camfield was lucky in getting Cage and Rampling as guest stars. Camfield was lucky in getting Cage and Rampling as guest stars.
He will make a special guest appearance on next week's show.
She guested on a comedy show last year.
Guest book.
Guest book.
Guest house.
Guest house.
Guest room.
Guest room.
Guest worker.
Guest worker.
Guff.
Guff.
I don't believe any of that guff.
Guffaw.
Guffaw.
We guffawed at what Graham had written.
The announcement was greeted with loud guffaws.
Gooey.
Gooey.
Guidance.
Guidance.
I went to a counsellor for guidance on my career.
I was looking forward to working under her expert guidance.
Children need moral guidance.
A missile with a sophisticated electronic guidance system.
Guide.
Guide.
The polls are not a reliable guide of how people will vote. The figures are only a rough guide.
A tour guide.
An experienced mountain guide.
My spiritual guide.
A guide to North American birds.
Follow our step-by-step guide.
Details of how to use the various programs are in the user guide.
He guided us through the narrow streets to the central mosque.
He guided her firmly towards the sofa.
Searchlights were used to guide the ship into the harbour.
Teenagers need adults to guide them.
Guide your students through the program, one section at a time.
Guidebook.
Guidebook.
Travel guidebooks.
Guided missile.
Guided missile.
Guide dog.
Guide dog.
Guided tour.
Guided tour.
You will be taken on a guided tour of the palace.
Guideline.
Guideline.
A new set of guidelines for teachers.
Guidelines on the employment of children.
The hospital has issued new guidelines on the treatment of mentally ill patients.
This chapter gives you some guidelines to help you in your work.
Today, most planning authorities enforce fairly strict guidelines on new houses.
When starting a new business, try to follow these general guidelines.
Teachers can choose books within certain broad guidelines. Guiding.
Guiding.
Fairness, rather than efficiency, is the guiding principle. Eddie was his hero, his guiding light.
He really needed a guiding hand.
Guild.
Guild.
The Women's Guild.
Gilder.
Gilder.
The Guild Hall.
Guildhall.
Guile.
Guile.
With a little guile, she might get what she wanted. With a little guile, she might get what she wanted.
Guileless.
Guileless.
Guillemot.
Guillemot.
Guillotine.
Guillotine.
Opposition leaders accused the government of introducing a guillotine motion to stifle debate.
Guilt.
Guilt.
He used to buy them expensive presents out of guilt.
Don't you have any feelings of guilt about leaving David?
He felt an enormous sense of guilt when he thought about how he'd treated her.
I was racked with guilt at my part in making her this unhappy. Sometimes I felt little pangs of guilt.
He did not deny his guilt.
Guilt for poorly behaved children usually lies with the parents.
I wish my parents would stop laying a guilt trip on me for not going to college.
Her parents guilted her into not going to the concert.
Guiltless.
Guiltless.
Guilt-ridden.
Guilt-ridden.
Guilt trip.
Guilt trip. My mother tried to guilt trip me by crying.
Guilty.
Guilty.
I feel really guilty about forgetting her birthday again.
She looked self-conscious and guilty.
It was his guilty conscience that made him offer to help.
The jury found her guilty of murder.
He was found not guilty of the death of P.C. Jones.
He pleaded guilty to 2 charges of theft.
Some journalists are guilty of reporting scandal in order to sell papers. Some journalists are guilty of reporting scandal in order to sell papers.
Guinea.
Guinea.
Guinea fowl.
Guinea fowl.
Guinea pig.
Guinea pig.
Guys.
Guys.
They operated a drug smuggling business under the guise of an employment agency. They operated a drug smuggling business under the guise of an employment agency. They operated a drug smuggling business under the guise of an employment agency.
It's the same idea in a different guise.
Guitar.
Guitar.
Guitarist.
Guitarist.
Gulag.
Gulag.
Gulch.
Gulch.
Gulf.
Gulf.
The Gulf of Mexico.
The huge gulf between management and unions. A growing gulf between old and young.
Gulf Stream.
Gulf Stream.
Gull.
Gull.
Gullet.
Gullet.
Gully.
Gully.
Gullible.
Gullible.
Plastic replicas of the Greek pottery are sold to gullible tourists. Plastic replicas of the Greek pottery are sold to gullible tourists. Gully.
Gully.
Gulp.
Gulp.
She gulped down her breakfast and ran for the bus.
I gulped when I saw the bill.
We rushed outside and gulped in the sweet, fresh air.
Sandra tried to gulp back her tears.
He took a huge gulp of brandy. Charlie drank the whiskey in one gulp.
Gulps of fresh air. Gum.
Gum. Gum.
A large label has been gummed to the back of the photograph.
Dirt had got inside the watch and gummed up the works.
Gumball.
Gumball.
Gumbo.
Gumbo.
Gumboot.
Gumboot.
Gumdrop.
Gumdrop.
Gummy.
Gummy.
Gumption.
Gumption.
At least she had the gumption to phone me.
Gumshoe.
Gumshoe.
Gumshoeing.
Gumshoeing.
Gumtree.
Gumtree.
Gun.
Gun.
I could see he was carrying a gun.
I've never fired a gun in my life.
Jake was pointing a gun at the door.
2 policemen were killed in a gun battle.
He put a gun to her head and told the cashier to hand over the money.
You chose to live here. Nobody put a gun to your head.
A paint gun.
A nail gun.
Jed wanted to impress a Harvard professor and some other big guns.
Why is he gunning for me?
He's gunning for your job.
A policeman was gunned down as he left his house this morning.
Gunboat.
Gunboat.
Gun carriage.
Gun carriage.
Gun control.
Gun control.
Gun dog.
Gun dog.
Gunfire.
Gunfire.
I heard a burst of distant gunfire.
2 men were shot in an exchange of gunfire with the police.
Gunfight.
Gunfight.
Gunge.
Gunge.
The waste pipe is all gunged up.
Gung-ho.
Gung-ho.
The sporting opportunities here should suit the most gung-ho of tourists.
Gunk.
Gunk.
Here's your problem. The fuel line's all gunked up.
Gunman.
Gunman.
Gunmetal.
Gunmetal.
Gunnel.
Gunnel.
Gunner.
Gunner.
Gunner Smith.
Gunnery.
Gunnery.
A gunnery officer.
Gunny sack.
Gunny sack.
Gunpoint.
Gunpoint.
She was held at gunpoint for 37 hours. Gunpowder.
Gunpowder.
Gun running.
Gun running.
Gunship.
Gunship.
Gunshot.
Gunshot.
She says she heard a gunshot at about midnight.
Gunshot wounds. Gunslinger.
Gunslinger.
Gunsmith.
Gunsmith.
Gun-toting.
Gun-toting.
Gun-toting gangs on the street.
Gunnel.
Gunnel.
Guppy.
Guppy.
Gurgle.
Gurgle.
We could hear the stream gurgling down in the valley.
A gurgle of laughter.
Gurney.
Gurney.
Guru.
Guru.
A management guru.
A fashion guru.
Gush.
Gush.
Water gushed from the broken pipe.
He opened the door and smoke gushed out.
The wound gushed blood.
I simply loved your book, she gushed.
All that pent-up frustration gushed out in a torrent of abuse.
A gush of ice-cold water.
Gusher.
Gusher.
Gushing.
Gushing.
The gushing praise of the New York critics.
Gusset.
Gusset.
Gussie.
Gussie.
All the girls will be gussied up for the party.
Gust.
Gust.
A sudden gust of wind blew the door shut.
Gusts of up to 200 kilometers per hour may be experienced. Winds gusting up to 45 miles per hour.
Gusto.
Gusto.
They sang hymns with great gusto.
Gusty.
Gusty.
A cold, gusty October night.
Gut.
Gut.
He had a gut feeling that Sarah was lying. It takes guts to start a new business on your own. No one had the guts to tell Paul what a mistake he was making.
There were blood and guts all over the place.
It can take 72 hours for food to pass through the gut.
He felt as if someone had just kicked him in the gut.
Phil has a huge beer gut. The guts of the problem.
She knew at gut level that he was guilty.
The building was gutted by fire.
Gutless.
Gutless.
I should have had the support of my team, but they were really gutless.
Gutsy.
Gutsy.
It was a gutsy performance by McTaggart.
A gutsy, full-bodied whine.
Gutted.
Gutted.
We drove slowly past the gutted buildings. I was gutted when I lost my job.
Gutter. Gutter.
The gutters were blocked and overflowing.
Men like him usually ended up in jail, or the gutter. Guttering.
Guttering.
Gutter snipe.
Gutter snipe.
Guttural.
Guttural.
Gut-wrenching.
Gut-wrenching. A gut-wrenching description of life in the war zone.
Gov.
Gov.
Where to, Gov?
Governor.
Governor.
You'll have to speak to the governor about that.
Guy.
Guy.
Dave's a nice guy when you get to know him.
Jake's a real tough guy.
Hey, you guys, where are you going?
Guy Fawkes Night.
Guy Fawkes Night.
Guzzle.
Guzzle.
They've been guzzling beer all evening.
Jim.
Jim.
I try and work out at the local gym once a week. I go to the gym as often as I can.
We've got gym this afternoon.
Where's my gym kit?
Jim Bunny.
Gym bunny.
Gymkhana.
Gymkhana.
Gymnasium.
Gymnasium.
Gymnast.
Gymnast.
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics.
A gymnastics display.
We don't do gymnastics at school.
The girls went through their gymnastic routine.
Gym rat. Gym rat.
Gym shoe.
Gym shoe.
Gym slip.
Gym slip.
Gym slip mother.
Gym slip mother.
The video is intended to deter schoolgirls from becoming gym slip mothers.
Gynecology.
Gynecology.
Jip.
Jip.
My bad leg is really giving me jip today.
$10? You've been gypped.
Gypsum.
Gypsum.
Gypsy.
Gypsy.
Gyrate.
Gyrate.
The dancers gyrated wildly to the beat of the music.
Stock and bond markets have gyrated in recent weeks.
Gyroscope.
Gyroscope.
H.
H.
Ha.
Ha.
Ha, I thought it might be you hiding there.
Habeas corpus.
Habeas corpus.
Haberdasher.
Haberdasher.
Haberdashery.
Haberdashery.
Habit.
Habit.
Regular exercise is a good habit.
Thinking negatively can become a habit.
She has a habit of playing with her hair when she's nervous.
Some people drink alcohol as much from habit as from desire.
I did it out of habit.
A lot of drug addicts get into petty crime to support their habit.
His cocaine habit ruined him physically and financially.
You're 10 minutes late. I hope you're not going to make a habit of this.
I'm not in the habit of lying to my friends.
Life has a habit of springing surprises.
She knew it probably wasn't necessary anymore, but old habits die hard.
A nun's habit.